Start by reading the following statement. May I remind everyone present that this meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded via the internet and is recording archived for future viewing. Could all participants please mute themselves when not speaking in order to avoid any background noise or feedback when other participants are speaking. If you wish to speak, can you please raise your hand in person if sat in the chamber, or use the remote raise hand function located in the bottom left-hand side of the screen. This will put you in the speaker queue accordingly. When subsequently invited to address by myself, please then press your activation button in the bottom centre of your screen. When invited to address by the chair, please could all participants ensure that your microphone and camera is on to ensure that you can be seen and heard when actively participating. If this is not possible for any reason, please bring this to my attention or the democratic officers. Please ensure that all debate is raised verbally and not via the chat function for the sake of the recording. The chat function may be used to highlight any technical issues and or to grab the attention of me or a democratic officer. If a remote committee member has a prejudicial interest and is therefore required to withdraw from the meeting, the democratic officer will place the participant in the virtual waiting room until such a time that the interested item is concluded. Please do not close your browser window whilst in the waiting room, as the democratic officer will bring you back into the meeting automatically when appropriate. For members attending the meeting in person with a prejudicial interest, they will be asked to leave the chamber for the duration and will be invited back into the room as appropriate. So good to see everyone again. We'll get straight into it with agenda item 1. Any apologies for interest?
No apologies given in advance of the meeting, Chair. Unless any members have any apologies.
No. Oh, Chris Franks.
Chair, I have interest to declare in the library's report. I'm a trustee of Dinas Powys Community Library. To the best of my knowledge, I have dispensation to speak, but not vote.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Franks.
Thank you.
And agenda item 2, then any other declaration of interest? Ewan?
Thank you. Can I declare on item 5 a personal interest, please, as I was, at the time period of this report, a student at Cardiff and Vale College, which is mentioned multiple times, but it's not prejudicial, as I have nothing to gain from this, so therefore I'll stay in the meeting and speak and vote.
Thank you. Councillor Hennessy.
Yeah, I'd like to declare in agenda item 4. Like Chris Franks, I'm a trustee of Roos Library. I do not have dispensation, so I will leave the room when this is being discussed.
Okay, thank you. I can't see any others, so we'll move on to agenda item 3, update on the progress of the Religion, Values and Ethics curriculum. It's over to Caris.
Diolch yn fawr, Chair, a noswaith dda gyfeillion. Over the last few years, we've received termly presentations on the curriculum for Wales. Sometimes it's been from a school perspective in terms of how they're planning, in terms of implementation of the curriculum. Other times we've had a particular theme. So we've had a theme, for example, this year in relation to Welsh and international languages. Last July, there was a presentation on religion, values and ethics. And as part of the discussion following that presentation, there was a request from members to hear more from a pupil perspective in terms of how RVE, religion, values and ethics, has changed over the last few years in terms of implementation of the curriculum for Wales. So I'm joined tonight by the 2 colleagues who gave the presentation last year. So we've got Donna Graves, who's the Associate Advisor for RE, RVE and SACRE and SAC, and Nikki Haggerdyke, who's the Area Lead for Humanities. And you'll see, I won't steal their thunder, but you'll see that we're trying to capture some pupil voice as part of this next presentation. So I'll pass over to Donna and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions at the end of the presentation. Thank you. Diolch.
Thank you ever so much. Following on from last year's presentation on RVE, I'm here to present to you the follow-up of some of the developments that have occurred within the authority since last summer. I'm delighted to share this with you. So firstly, on this slide, we have some key notable changes for RVE in the curriculum for Wales, just as a sort of recap. In case you weren't present last year. So the name of the subject has changed, and this is to reflect its evolving nature, mirroring modern society, communities, schools, settings, and learners. Teaching about non-religious philosophical convictions is a legal requirement, and parents can no longer withdraw their child or children from the academic subject of RVE, as it's needs to be planned and delivered in an objective, critical, and pluralistic way. RVE now sits within the curriculum, and it's one of the 5 humanities subjects. There is the new RVE Agreed Syllabus for the Vale. This was published in 2022, and schools and settings must pay regard to this. This can be found on both the Vale and the CSE websites. RVE is now for learners aged 3 to 16, rather than the previous 5 to 18 with religious education. The subsidiary nature of the Curriculum for Wales provides schools and settings with the opportunity to devise and to deliver a curriculum that connects with their learners on a local, national, and global level. So for our schools with a religious character within the Vale, there is lots of additional guidance available and support for RVE. We have the Church in Wales and the Catholic Education Services that provide publications, websites, support, etc. So that's all available as well. Across the local authority, there is variable change as the Curriculum for Wales rolls out. Notably, primary schools have implemented RVE across their entire setting, while secondaries have the rollout to complete, with the current years 7 and 8 studying RVE. With RVE, schools are now encouraged to teach about a wider range of religions and beliefs, igniting the learner's curiosity. This includes pluralism within faiths, between faiths, and non-religious philosophical convictions too. There is an emphasis on exploring lived faiths locally, nationally, and globally. With the introduction of non-religious philosophical convictions, humanism is one of the many beliefs that is being studied. Schools are exploring non-religious philosophical convictions, with many primaries focusing on humanism, and some secondaries starting to explore atheism, agnosticism, secularism, and humanism. The soon-to-be legacy religious education curriculum only required humanism to be studied as a small part of the WJAC GCSE RS qualification. This has been a large and significant shift in the RVE curriculum for practitioners and learners. The Curriculum for Wales framework highlights concepts and key ideas for learners to know and understand. So schools are now focusing on developing a conceptual-based approach, encouraging learners to use their conceptual knowledge in different contexts and topics. We're also seeing more links being made across subjects, with history, geography, business and social studies within the humanities area of learning, but also across other AOLEs, such as expressive arts, science and technology, and more. But this is still an area for development within schools, and we continue to support them. We have our first case study for you. So we have collected and collated a sample of schools from across the Vale of Glamorgan as case studies to provide a snapshot of the update on the progress of RVE within the LA and to put them into direct context of schools and settings. We have a range of video clips and quotes from the learners and practitioners to share with you. Firstly, we have Victoria Primary School in Penarth. As a school, they're focused extensively on diversity and anti-racism. This has impacted all areas of their curriculum, including their RVE provision. Within RVE, they're focused more on values. For example, the Year 6 class has done a unit of work on justice and freedom. This has incorporated learning about a wider range of religions and beliefs. They have also embedded RVE more into their main topics. So the work on justice and freedom was linked to history, work on the Second World War, for example.
So our RVE work that we've done in Year 6, is it different to how you used to do RE? How is it different?
Because every time we did RE, we used to just do Christian, and now we've opened up more religions.
Okay. Do you prefer that, or would you rather?
Yeah, I think other religions.
Okay, why do you like learning about other religions?
It's fun to see other people's perspectives of God and like their main belief.
But yeah. It's interesting to see what other people believe, what their perspective is on life.
And I also think that in year 5 we learned about 2 religions, but in year 6 we've learned about quite a lot. And I think that's a good thing about our RVE learning. I like learning about like different people that have been activists, like John Hume, Mahatma Gandhi, and Martin Luther King. I also think that we did more interesting activities to get us more in the mood for learning about it. So it was very fun and it was unusual, and I liked all of the activities. It was so fun.
Why was it unusual?
It was like, because in year 5 we obviously never did a lot of religions, but in year 6 we've gone through lots more, and it's really fun.
So I would say, so I'm the humanities lead, and I, looking at the new curriculum, it means that we've got much more of a focus on diversity, much more of a focus on human rights, justice and injustice, fairness and unfairness. And I think it really helps the children think for themselves much more, take into consideration, when we worked on the justice and freedom topic, which is quite a heavy topic to work on with year 6. We talked a lot about rights and responsibilities, and children would talk about, well, if I've got freedom, I'm going to choose to not come to school, or I'm going to choose to do what I want when I want. And we talked a lot about how that infringed on other people's rights. And so it's really opened the door for those sorts of discussions and debates in class, which is fantastic. I really love that. And it's opened the door for the sort of morals and ethics side of religious and non-religious beliefs, which I think, forward in the modern world, I think probably, as humanities lead, I would say there's nothing more important than that, really. So that's been the biggest change for me.
So the second school that we have is St Nicholas Church in Wales Primary School. The head teacher engaged with CSE, and it was a funded project on diversity with humanities. She decided to focus on pluralism and diversity within and across the RVE curriculum. Following her involvement in the project, she requested a whole school inset on RVE and diversity. On the next few slides, you'll see the impact of diversity on their curriculum.
Thank you, Belle and William, for coming to speak to me today about things we've been learning in school and in class. I've got a question for you. Can you tell me, either of you, what RVE is?
RVE is learning about religion and values.
And values, that's right. Do you enjoy learning about religion and values?
Yeah.
You do? What do you enjoy about it, Belle?
Because I get to learn new things.
Okay, about what in particular?
About people.
Yeah.
In other religions.
Yeah, good. You find that quite interesting, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you do as well, William, do you? What interests you the most about it? How do you think it impacts you as a person, William?
I get to learn about other people.
Yeah.
So then...
Do you think that's important, as learning about other people?
Yeah.
What about accepting other people's beliefs and values? Is that important?
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. We would want to encourage that, wouldn't we? Yeah. And we try and do that in our everyday learning.
Okay, right. Millie and Ziane, can you tell me what RVE is? What sorts of things do we learn about in RVE?
Religion and friendship.
And friendship. What's friendship? It's one of our
Values.
It's one of our values, isn't it? And what have you enjoyed in RVE this year? What's been your favourite piece of work that you've done? What have you enjoyed, Millie?
Doing the piece.
About peace. And you've done a lovely picture here. And what brings you peace, Millie?
Peace is relaxing at the beach.
Peace is relaxing at the beach. Where do you feel peace?
In your heart.
In your heart.
Thank you, Belle and William.
Here we have some quotes from practitioners. We have two from the St Nicholas Church in Wales Primary School in response to their RVE curriculum and diversity. Our third case study is Evenlode Primary School. They took part in the Philosophy for Children, or P4C, funded project this year. They have received general P4C training previously prior to their engagement in this project, but have received really specialised training for P4C and RVE. They developed their pedagogy within RVE, and actually it's led to a wider whole school impact as well. And so you'll see this on the next couple of slides, how it's developed within their school. You'll see a year one practitioner talking. You'll also see 4 year one learners. They're actively holding Philosophy TED, which is one of the strategies that the learners learn very well in terms of their listening skills, that they can only speak if they're holding Philosophy TED. So that's why they're holding the Teddy.
Hi, my name is Sam Armand and I'm a year one teacher. We started doing philosophy in my school about 2 years ago. Initially, I was a little bit sceptical and I thought, are my children a little bit too young? But actually, they've amazed me. I've done it with my class last year and then with this year's class as well. And they just astound me, really. The reasons that they give and the way they explain their thinking and their opinions. I thought they would just copy their friends, and we'd have just a couple of dominant characters answering and dominating, but actually that's not the case at all. It's lovely to find out what they're thinking and feeling. They're really good at doing the I agree with and I disagree with, and I even hear them then taking that out onto the yard in the playground. I hear them saying, I disagree with you because, which is lovely. How it's impacted my teaching, I think I'm just more interested to find out what they think about, different areas of the curriculum. And I think, it's helped my questioning a lot more, and I give them lots and lots of opportunities to think and discuss, with their friends and explain their thinking. And I think, it's had a positive impact, on my questioning and on my approach really to teaching. They just seem to love it. They really enjoy it. It's great for their oracy skills. It's been fantastic for their listening skills as well, particularly when we introduce the I agree and I disagree, because they just have to listen to others before they respond. So it's been very positive. Thanks.
I like philosophy because no one's wrong, everyone's right. Like in math, sometimes you're wrong and sometimes you're right, but in philosophy you're never wrong. I like philosophy because there's no right and no wrong. You can think your own way. I like philosophy because it's nice when people share what they think. I like philosophy because you get to answer questions and you get to use your own opinion to what you like and what you want to say about the questions.
So the fourth case study is St Athens Primary School. The Humanities and RVE lead took part in the New to Leading Humanities Primary Professional Learning Sessions, and they were one of the 7 schools that took part in P4C and RVE funded project. The RVE lead also received bespoke RVE and the Daily Act of Collective Worship, or DACO, support. As a result of this, they requested a whole school twilight session focused on both RVE and the Daily Act of Collective Worship. They have a range of key developments to share. So it's part of their action plan and also their school improvement plan. They've attended the inset and answered a range of questions, or had their questions answered. You can see they've used the progression maps that have been shared and found that they were a good resource, helping all staff to plan and deliver their RVE lessons compared to the old style RE lessons. And the P4C training gave a range of ideas of how to incorporate P4C with children of all ages. Lastly, Whitmore High. This is one of the schools that were involved in last year's presentation. To follow up and show their progression moving from RE to RVE for their current years 7 and 8, they paired with the drama department and produced a news report style video for you.
Hi, I'm Nerys Jones and I'm Leader of Learning for Religion, Values and Ethics at Whitmore High School. Over the last week or so, we have been chatting with year 7 and 8 pupils to gain pupil voice on what they've been doing in religion, values and ethics and what they've enjoyed.
Hello and welcome to Whitmore High School, where there's lots of amazing things to report about on this week. But our top story comes from the RVE department, where pupils have been asked to talk about all of the incredible things they've been up to this year in lessons. Let's take a look and see what some of the pupils. Hello, and what's your name?
Hi, I'm Tristan and this is
Olivia. Lovely to meet you both. Can you tell us what you're doing today?
The topic we're on is now pilgrimage. So far we've watched Muslims on Hajj in Mecca and followed Pod's journey around North Wales.
Oh, Pod's video was so amazing. It was so funny and helped us learn about the meaning of pilgrimage to those who go on one.
This sounds interesting. What else have you done this year that you've enjoyed?
Well, we've gone far back, basically to September, so we've done loads already. But one of the first things we did was what it is to be a part of a religion, or what is a worldview. We all carried out research on a different religion and then shared it with our class. We completed a jigsaw and talking about our class influences and then what influences our own worldview.
What did you enjoy most about this project?
Oh, I love the way we created the jigsaw with different pieces that are part of our lives.
We then looked at holy books from different faiths and how they are treated. Did you know the Sikh holy book is treated like royalty and kept in the bedroom overnight when it's not being used?
Wait, what? Oh. Well, we also looked at different types of writings like birthday cards, certificates, birth certificates, and school reports. We talked about how we would look after these and why they are important.
November is about festivals of light. We enjoyed learning about Diwali. It was really fun.
I loved designing the Rangoli.
We then watched a video about Diwali celebrations in the community, but without the sounds. We had to imagine what was being said using all the images and keywords on the screen to help us write a script for the video.
Wow, so you really have covered a lot. Thanks to you both. Let's go speak to these pupils over here. Hello, can you tell us what you've enjoyed learning about this year?
We enjoyed the topic Journey of Life, where we looked at life as like...
Life is like a bunch of flowers. You can choose which flower to take.
Life is like a candle. Life is like jelly when you wobbly and then you still.
I took we could be as creative as we wanted to on this task.
I enjoyed learning about DOD Los Muertos in this unit. I liked all the colours.
I like learning about all the culture.
I like learning about celebration and other cultures.
I also liked learning about different people's stories when we looked at a humanist family preparing for a naming ceremony, Jewish boys and girls having their bar and bat mitzvah, and religious and non-religious wedding ceremonies.
I love doing the start on the place that I most like to visit. I said Australia because I have family who live there.
We watched a video on Paul's pilgrimage in North Wales. I liked looking at experiences of this.
I like discussing the question, which isn't ordinary man, because we looked at different people's perspectives on the question.
We all enjoyed presenting our multi-faith presentations. We were nervous, but it helped us be more confident.
So we have had a selection of case studies in schools from both practitioners and predominantly learners, really talking about the developments and the progression within their curriculum design, but also the learner voice and the learner reaction to those changes over the last few years, but particularly for secondary in the last year or 2 years with the year 7 and 8 rollout of the curriculum for RVE. If anybody has any questions for us, thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much. So over to committee members for any questions or comments. Councillor Hennessy.
Right. Thank you. Excellent report. Most of the elder statesmen in this room can remember RE, and probably most of us didn't enjoy it. You stated in the report that a parent doesn't have the right to move their child from RVE. What happens if they insist because of their religious beliefs?
Thank you for that question. There is a real difference between religious education, where the parental right to withdraw is still in place. With religion, values and ethics, it needs to be planned and delivered in a critical, objective and pluralistic way. Because of that, just like any other subject, any other academic subject, you're learning about something. So therefore, there's no need for any learner to be withdrawn because of the different approach.
Thank you. Councillor Lynch-Wilson.
Hi, a lovely report on a lovely presentation. And my comment would be, I really think that we should have more learning participation in our presentations, because it was very refreshing.
Thank you very much. Nothing else, I don't think. Oh, Councillor Goodjohn.
Thanks, Chair. I really enjoyed that, and I agree with Councillor Lynch-Wilson. This is a brilliant way of seeing how the curriculum affects the children and what they think and feel about it. I was very impressed through the whole age ranges, and I think it seemed to instill tolerance, understanding, and open-mindedness through the age ranges too. Thank you ever so much. I really, really appreciate this report and presentation.
Thanks very much. And I think it's been noted about the approval of the learner participation is excellent. If there's nothing else, great. So in that case, then I move that we thank the participating schools for their contributions and note the presentation. Forget seconder. Councillor Hennessy, thanks very much. Thanks, Nikki, Donna and Caris for that. Item 4 then, it's the library's annual report, and it's over to Trevor.
Cheers. That's a tough act to follow. I don't have any PowerPoint presentations, but I do have a lovely report that you will have had as an appendix to the covering report. What we're looking to do is just to give folks an update on what's been happening in our libraries over the past couple of years, some of the initiatives that are going on, and just to recognise some of the folks who've been involved in supporting our libraries and growing what we offer across the Vale. In terms of background, so the last time you would have seen the report was in December 2022. 2023 was a difficult year for our service. We lost a key member of staff. And we also had a restructure of our library services team. So today we're going to be doing the 2 years at once. Section 2 under the key issues for consideration outlines the structure of the report. But if you're happy, Chair, maybe I'll just talk through some of the bits in detail rather than just the covering stuff. We've tried to make this report as accessible as possible. It's done in a different format, lots of visual stuff, lots of graphics and infographics to help folks understand the impact. Libraries are at the heart of our communities, and it plays a vital role in our day-to-day lives. The folks in our libraries, community libraries and our core libraries are champions of literacy and lifelong learning, and that's replicated in everything that we do. The second page highlights how some of our service areas contribute to the Council vision and Welsh Government's wellbeing objectives. And then if we move on to the next page, it starts off with, we love what we do. And I know that sounds corny, but it isn't. It genuinely is, because the folks who are involved in delivering library services genuinely love what they do. We have 4 core libraries that operate across the Vale, in Barry, Penarth, Cowbridge and Lantwit. And then we have 5 community libraries that were established a number of years ago, which are run by dedicated teams of volunteers. And I'll come on to community libraries a little bit later on. Those include St. Athan, Roos, Dinas and Sully and Winbo. There's some detail there about some of the stuff that we provide. So again, it sounds corny. It isn't corny. It's not just about books in our libraries. There's lots of stuff, yes, that we can read and listen to and review. It's also a place where people can connect, people can seek advice, people can learn, and people can try new things. On the right-hand side of that page, there's some examples of some of the partnerships that we've established over the past few years. Things like employability. We have our Vale Learning Centre, which is based in Barry Library. In response to some of the challenges with banks closing on some of our high streets, we've worked with the banks so that folks can come in and still have that face-to-face interaction, which is key. And then some work with the health services, family information services, and voluntary organizations. That's not an exhaustive list, but it just gives you a flavor of some of the stuff that we do. I like numbers and facts and figures. So on the next page, there's a performance snapshot, which gives you an idea of some of the engagement. So for context, we have about 130,000 folks who live across the Vale. We have 25,000 young people as well who live and go to our schools in the Vale. So there's some details there about the number of books, not just hard copies, but the digital books that we have as well. So folks are able to download apps, they're able to borrow online, and they can read them on their Kindles or their phones, that kind of stuff. There's some information about the number of activities, over 4,500 activities and 71,000 participants in those activities. Those are big numbers. And almost 11,000 accessing some of the support sessions that we've put on. There's a metric there below about physical visits to our libraries per 1,000 of the population, and this is based on some Welsh Government standards that we have to report on. So again, big number, about 470,000 there, but what I would say is there's a lot of engagement that happens without walking through the doors now. There's a lot of stuff that happens on Facebook, on Twitter/X, with our virtual groups, virtual courses and stuff online that we do through our libraries as well. You'll see there at the bottom, 247 volunteers supported the delivery of 20,176 hours via our community and local authority libraries. The theme of volunteers is going to come up a lot in this paper, and the value of those volunteers and what they bring to the service cannot be understated. The next section of the report talks about early literacy and creativity. So obviously we do lots of engagement with young people. Our libraries provide children with the opportunity to experiment as readers, to learn new genres, new titles, new languages, and to engage with that content. Some more figures there. We hold 60,000 items as part of our children and young people stock. That's a lot of choice. And we share all of those books across all of our libraries. We've hosted, as I mentioned, almost 2,100 children's activities, and 28,000 children and young people took part. So if you do the math, we have about 25,000 kids in our schools, 28,000 engaged. So we've got a lot of repeat visits, which is a good thing. There's some detail there about our children's activities. Our library staff, our community library volunteers, they're rock stars when it comes to working with young people and the activities that they put on. And there's some examples there supporting families with rhyme and sign, wriggle and rhyme sessions, activities like Lego Club, Coding Club, Chatterbooks, which is like a book club for young folks, and then traditional stuff like Dungeons and Dragons for folks who used to play that back in the day. There's some details about a program called Book Start. So we've got an awesome children's librarian who works across our libraries, who works with the Book Trust in putting these packs together and making them available to folks who have had children. So we've had 2,600 of those delivered in the last, in 2022, 2023. The Summer Reading Challenge is always a fan favorite. It just started over the weekend. You can participate in your local library, so please go check it out, or online. The theme this year is Marvelous Makers, I believe. It started out trying to get more people into reading. One of the key ways out of poverty is teaching kids to read, teaching kids to experiment, giving kids opportunities, and going forward. So that's a big focus for us. And on the next page, you can see some of the engagement we've had in previous years. So almost 1,200 participating of it and 620 of those completing the Summer Reading Challenge. That's a lot of books for a young person over the summer. So to have that level of engagement is really, really good. The next page talks about our engagement with schools. So libraries support our schools with, they have a number of SLAs with them, and the engagement that our libraries have with schools year on year continues to grow, which is awesome. Our libraries hosted 335 school visit sessions attended by 8,600 kids from across the Vale. And they facilitate some national things, like there's reference in here to the Book Slam competition, where we had 48 young people participating in that across 4 of our Vale schools. There's also lots of other events that we do which you wouldn't traditionally associate with a library, but which is pretty cool. So the Zoo Lab animal handling session, if you're interested in going and petting a snake, mad science workshops, pedal power painting sessions, Fiery Jack's circus show, kite making, and the ever popular Mr. Marvel, who does some really cool magic tricks. The other types of events we do, there's some big ticket items. So on the next page, there's a picture there of David Baddiel, who was part of our Winter of Wellbeing scheme. So over 900 of our kids came to a session that was hosted at Barry Memo to listen to him read his books and do a Q&A session with our children's librarian. There were some really positive benefits for the community as well. So we linked up with some independent bookshops in Penarth and Cowbridge. We had signed copies. So there was a benefit to the wider community in terms of some of that stuff. As we go forward, I don't have some really cool videos. Like the folks just said, I wish I did. But we do have some thought bubbles with some qualitative feedback from some of our library users. I won't go through them in detail, but please have a read of some of those. And you'll see some of the impact that's had on individual and family lives. From an age-friendly perspective, our libraries are age-friendly environments. We strive to make sure that our resources, services and activities are inclusive and accessible to older people as well. And we reflect the WHO's age-friendly communities concept, and we contribute to 5 out of their key areas of focus. So community support and health services, comms and information, civic participation and employment, respect, social inclusion, and social participation. So big ticket items there. Barry and Penarth have achieved age-friendly status, and Cowbridge and Lantwood are working towards theirs as well. Lower on the page, you'll see details about our dementia-friendly support too. This is an increasing area requiring support. So there's a couple of points there. One, we have a range of support available for families, and that includes books, advice, that kind of thing, as part of our dementia-friendly initiative. But also all of our library staff, including all of our new staff, attend dementia-friendly training as we work towards dementia-friendly status in the Vale. On the next page, there's some details about some of the cool programs that we've put on. If you're into history and pictures of the Vale as was in the before time, there's a really good program on there from the 1880s to present, which is very popular. And some of the age-friendly activities and clubs that we have around enhancing well-being, promoting social inclusion, and reducing some of those barriers around isolation and loneliness, which is heartbreaking, and we're seeing more and more of that. 2,200 age-friendly events have been delivered across our libraries, and 22,000 people attended those. That's huge. The next page is a couple more details around an example of some of the links we have with Havid Housing. We've held a number of drop-in sessions, so again, our libraries are accessible to folks, maybe more so than some other venues. So we've held a number of drop-in sessions there. And our home library service, 416 home visits for 32 residents who can't leave their homes. Again, I think that shows a lot of love and care from our volunteers. We also work really closely with a lot of our local care homes. The next page, again, some qualitative feedback from some of our users. I would point out the part, they are my lifeline. And I want to say how helpful the digital champions are. So in an ever-increasing digital world, we have that support in our libraries, that one-to-one support to help folks with that. That's a beautiful segue onto digital inclusion on the next page. So our branches have delivered 357 digital one-to-one sessions. So folks come in, I don't know how to do my email, I don't know how to submit a CV, I don't know how to download books onto my app. And we do one-to-one support with those folks, which has been really valued by members in the community. I mentioned about employability, the value of employability as a route out of poverty. There's some details there about some of the regular drop-in sessions we do in our library. So in Barry Library, we have job clubs that are put on from a number of our partners. And as I mentioned, the Vale Learning Centre is also based up on the first floor there. We did a really cool employability skills fair in 2022. We had about 400 visits from people from all walks of life with 45 local employers making connections and supporting getting people back into work. There's details there about our support for refugees. Again, our libraries are safe places, they're safe havens, it's equity of access. We've done a lot with Afghan and Ukrainian refugees in recent years, including specific drop-in sessions and outreach programs to where some of those folks are based. Celebrating diversity. So like I said, we have 130,000 folks in the Vale from all walks of life. These folks need to see themselves represented in the services that we provide in the public, and that includes the library. So there's details about some of the story times that we've done in previous years with ADHD, for example, around breaking down prejudice and discrimination. I've mentioned the banking services and then warm spaces as well. Warm Spaces is an initiative folks will be familiar with in other areas of the council, but we've done a lot of work in our libraries, setting up tables and chairs and coffees for folks to come in around the cost of living crisis. And we've seen almost a 30% increase of folks through the door using those services. So again, big numbers. We support other initiatives around period dignity, for example, removing a lot of the stigma with that and promoting an understanding of periods, addressing inequality and access to products through our libraries, very similar to what we do in our schools. And we've had almost 3,600 products taken up or distributed from our library services. If we go through, there's another case study a couple of pages down just before the maker spaces, which again hits home. There's a lady in her 70s living with dementia who couldn't afford to stay home all day because of the costs. So she would take rides on the bus. And the bus driver suggested she come and visit one of our libraries. She did. She made friends. She joined groups. She comes to the library every day and she chats about art and history. And that's been life-changing for her. Makerspaces, near and dear to my heart. So in 2022, we opened up our first makerspace in the Vale. So if you think about, we've talked to you about 21st century learning that we do in our new schools and supporting all of our schools across the Vale around, computer-aided design, 3D printers, all that kind of fun stuff. What happens when they leave school? What happens when mum and dad and brother and sister and auntie and uncle want to get involved? What happens when artists want to use those mediums for expression? So we set up a makerspace in 2022 with some funding that we had from the government, and it's set up around 4 core subject areas. So 3D design and printing, laser cutting and engraving, coding and robotics, which is really cool, and digital design, audio and video. So if you're into creating music, movies, that kind of stuff, come and check it out. We've had a lot of SMEs come and start and do some prototyping in our makerspaces. So using our 3D printers or, printing all kinds of stuff with young people. So we've had about 1,400 people participating in almost 300 events in our makerspaces. And that's run by 2 people. So we have 2 makerspaces run by 2 people. And we're going to be expanding the makerspaces to a mobile unit for the rural Vale as well. And community libraries if they would like that. So watch this space. Community libraries, again, this is a big deal, and you've heard us chat to you about this before, so I won't go into too much detail, but in a nutshell, in 2016, as part of reshaping, we changed our relationship with a number of our libraries, and rather than close them, we set up community libraries, and these are run by trustees. We support them with a couple of peripatetic librarians, with books and with IT, and then they have these hyper-local libraries which serve their communities. And again, it can't be understated how well these community libraries have done and what they've been able to achieve. Again, there's some details on the bottom around the registered users that they've had. I would note, again, there's an increase between 2022-3 and 23-24. And the items that were issued, again, that's gone up by about 15,000 in our community libraries. And there's 16,000 volunteer hours. So again, these are volunteer-run community libraries. The value of those volunteers can't be understated. There's a really interesting case study on the next page about Dennis Powis, who was able to secure some funding. So again, as a community library, you can access funding that we as local authority can't. They ran with it. They've done some changes to the building. They set up a number of different events. They've got a gallery on site. They've won a Local Heroes Award. And there's a case study about some of the breastfeeding and weaning support groups that they set up on site, which again provided a lot of support to that lady. So again, you know, hopefully we can note our thanks to the community libraries and the volunteers for running those and taking those on and making those an amazing success. Nearly done. But I like to brag about my library services, see. So the next page is about volunteers, and again, figures around volunteers. I wish we could do more for our volunteers, because our volunteers are what bring something special into some of the services and events that we're able to run. The volunteers come up from all walks of life. We have high school students who run coding clubs for young people. We have older people who run lots of different things around photography, for example, and there's hundreds and hundreds of hours that they've been able to contribute for a number of different programs across everything we do. The last bit is the statutory bit. So one of the bits that we report on, and you folks will have seen this in lots of the corporate-y stuff that we report on, is our contribution to the Welsh Public Library standards. So there are 12 core entitlements, 16 quality indicators. We do a self-assessment. It goes off, and then an independent assessor comes and says whether or not they think we've done it right or wrong. So these are regularly reported, but there's some details in there. There was one of our targets was partially met, and this was related to engaging with specific adult groups for some of the services we provide. And the second was around publishing our library strategy, which has been done. On the back page, one of the things the Welsh Public Library standards do is they canvass library users and they publish a report. And these are some of the highlights. So 95% overall satisfaction with the libraries, 81% satisfied with IT, 96% of the folks who attended something said it helped them achieve their goals. Young people give us a rating of 9 out of 10. 99% of adults think that our libraries are enjoyable, safe and inclusive, and 41% thought libraries made a difference to their lives. I want to grow that number, and I want to define what making a difference to lives means. The last page then, as you would expect, is just some detail around the use of resources. So libraries, like every other council service, isn't immune to savings programs. Our libraries have savings targets, and it's a really delicate balance because these are public service which people need and have a right to access. And our goal is to widen access to that. So with initiatives like our Makerspace, for example, that gives us an opportunity to generate revenue for something that adds value to folks rather than charging to take books out or that kind of thing. So that's our key strategy going forward around income generation. Lastly, there's a couple of things just to mention. One of the challenges we have in our libraries is around capital funding, which I'm sure you will hear from lots of different service areas. We've had a roof cave in Penarth Library. We've had leaking roofs in Llantuit Library. We've submitted a number of capital bids and those have been unsuccessful. So any support from folks around that would be helpful. The other thing I mentioned is around volunteers. I wish we could do more to thank our volunteers, and the council has put together some initiatives now around volunteering, and that's really exciting to hear about. And I think our libraries are going to be really great contributors to that. And then finally, just a shout out to all of the library staff who've picked up and done an amazing job over the last year and really delivered for our communities. And that includes our community libraries as well. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Trevor. Very comprehensive. So over to councillors. See, Chris Franks has got his hand up. So,
thank you, Chair. I'm speaking from a Dinas Powys perspective. I'll say it from the start. We're not looking for financial support, so I can get that out of the way. But we would like to be included in events that the larger libraries are involved with. Sometimes we struggle to find events, exhibitions, that type of thing, with trying to keep the lights on and the doors open. So we would welcome to be included in such activities. However, having said that, we are picking up on our activities, and I've got the list in front of me for 6 weeks over the holidays, basically, and we're doing Story Babies, Scrabble, Rhyme and Sign, Seagull activity, Story Time again, Rock Pool, Breastfeeding, and Mr. Marvel. And if you want a flipping good hour's entertainment with 40 screaming children, that's the place to go. So I would also mention that libraries hand out a huge volume of recycling bags. Goodness knows what happens to them all, but we seem to have a van load every week depositing bags in our library. We are also developing evening events primarily for adults, and just before, about a month ago, we had a exhibition and talk on Old Dinas Powys, and it was so popular we had to do a repeat the following week. So we hit the button there. So I would just conclude to say we have excellent support from the peripatetic librarians, and we're very grateful for their assistance and guidance. Thank you, Chair.
thanks, Chris. Trevor, would you like to say a few words on that?
If I can make it go, there we go. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, on the point about engagement, so one of the updates we have is we've just recently appointed a new library and cultural services manager, and that's exactly what this post is about. So building those links, working across all of our libraries, including community libraries, making sure we are able to widen access to what's on offer, and support the work that's done in libraries. So I will definitely put them in touch with you folks. Hopefully they're starting at the end of the month. We'll go from there.
Great, thank you. Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Trevor. And I just wanted to thank the staff and the volunteers of the libraries. And for me, the interesting point about it is how libraries are evolving. So obviously, you know, we think if you're old, you think about it as just books. But there are so many services now that the libraries offer. And I only think of Barry Library in terms of the repair cafe, and lots of the tech things that are on offer, like Minecraft clubs, Lego building. You know, there's lots and lots of things. And it's nice that it's kind of looking at the demand that's out there as well. So I just wanted to say well done, really. And, you know, thank you to everybody for this report. It's brilliant.
Thanks, Helen. Councillor Marshall, Sue.
Again, many thanks for all the information, Trevor. I moved to Barry in 2017 from London, and I remember my sister, who lived in Cardiff at that point, went, "You're moving to Barry? They've got an amazing library." And I remember thinking, oh, okay, I'd been to the library in central London a few times with my little one, who at that point was 1, and moved here. And it was one of the first things I did with my then toddler, and it became something that we did week in, week out. Rhyme and sign on a Monday morning where my child learned to wrestle, amongst other things. But more than anything, it gave me friendship. It gave me people to talk to. It enhanced my children's and my life. And I'm forever grateful for that. We would arrive and the staff there knew my name, they knew my child's name, and actually knew all of the other families' names as well. And it was free. And when you have young children, it's a time in your life where you often don't have that much money. And to have something that is completely accessible for all, free, was amazing. And I then went to Bounce and Rhyme when I had my youngest, etc. Both of my children have now done the summer reading challenge and will likely be doing it this year. Whenever I take them to the library, it's a nightmare getting them out, which I think is only a sign of what an amazing place and space it is, really. So thank you on a personal note. Amser Stori, for example, was one of the ways of encouraging my children in the Welsh language. They're now both in Welsh school. So it really just enhanced and changed our life and has given me some of my closest friends as well. Reading the report, some of these things I wasn't even aware of, which is a really lovely, particularly the makerspace, for example. So my only thought was about, I'm getting these things are very well utilised, but about marketing really, and actually showing what is available in the library, because there are absolutely amazing things there. And is there a way that we can market this to people within the community more to enhance it? And my only other thought is about the possibility of a human library, because I've been reading about human libraries and I would love to go to one myself.
Awesome, thank you. In terms of the human library, we've tried that previously. So we did a session, I think it was last year or the year before, where we had folks linked to our 21st Century Schools program who went to Barry, and we had architects and designers and builders and all those sorts of folks, and people were able to come in and ask them questions, and that was really cool, and that created a lot of links, so we're looking to do more of that. In terms of marketing, I almost forgot to make a plug, so thank you. vogmakerspace.co.uk, for those of you on your laptops, go and check it out. That shows you some of the stuff that we're able to do that was put together by our 2 Makerspace techs. And it will give you an idea of some of the non-traditional things you can now do in our awesome makerspaces. So thank you for reminding me.
Thanks. Anne, did you want to come in?
Yes, please. Mine is more of a comment rather than any question. Is it I have been a volunteer in Dinas Parish Library for over 6 years, and it has been a very successful library, and the success is growing all the time. But just I am concerned of the reliance on volunteers. So if funding did become available, I would very much appreciate if it could go to the libraries and have properly funded staff. Thank you.
I totally agree, and I think it comes across in the report how much reliance we have on those volunteers, and if they're not there, the services aren't there, and those volunteers make it what it is. So I would wholeheartedly support that, and if anyone's got any ideas, come and let me know.
Thanks. Ewan?
Yeah, can I quickly thank Anne for that comment, because I've seen across the third sector falling volunteering rates in very established organisations. So these kind of things are important to note for the future, that this is an issue that could come up. I want to be a little bit of a Captain Killjoy on this and ask you what you're doing regarding some of the areas in Barry that aren't as well serviced by access, like Barry Library. You know, for example, living in Gibbonsdown or in Cadoxton, often it can be easier to go to Cardiff via the train station or via the buses than it is to get to King Square and access more resources in Cardiff than you do in Barry. So what work is there being done, especially, you know, in very deprived areas, some of those deprived areas in Barry, are you doing to, you know, reach those hard to reach people, those households that are so difficult to get to with a lot of the services that we provide?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There's a couple of things that we're doing. One is, I think I mentioned it briefly, some of the mobile services that we have. So the Makerspace is an example of that, to bring that to communities. The other thing that we're doing, and we've had a lot of success with that, we piloted it over COVID, and we're starting to roll it out more. And it's running a lot of those activities outside of the library. So in a lot of our schools, down at the Penarth Pier, up at Bellevue, all of these different areas. And then in Barry, especially in areas of deprivation inside of those schools where we already have those links with the families. So that's been really successful, especially with younger kids, especially because that helps them with their transition into schools. They get to know those environments as well. So that's something we're building on and going from strength to strength.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear about. And quickly, I wondered about some of the extra schemes that you're doing. For example, is Barry Library or any of the libraries going to be included within the new C-card scheme? I don't know if you have any information about that. That'd be very interesting. And if there's been any thoughts on accessing some of the Democracy Box projects that have been used in a lot of the libraries. I know in Newport that's been done recently. Has there been any thoughts on new schemes that's coming out the pipeline?
The short answer to that is no. I haven't got any detail that on the moment, but I can get some of that from my managers, and I will definitely go down and visit some of those services if it's something that we're not doing and we could be.
Thank you very much.
Cool. Cheers.
Thank you. Councillor Lynch-Wilson.
Thank you, Trevor. A very, although it didn't have children in it, it was still a very enthusiastic report. And I think your love for the subject shines through. And I'd just like to say that as a child, education wasn't high on my parents' list, neither were books. And the library was my saviour. And still today, I mean, they are such great places to work. And when you hear how many children don't own a book, even in 2024, I think libraries are as welcome today as they were when I was a child. So, you know, carry on the good work. And I'd also like to have a big plug for our community library, which they work so hard and they come up with new ideas all the time. And, you know, they just go from strength to strength. So very enthusiastic report and very welcome.
Thanks very much. I can't see anyone else with their hands up. I just wanted to make another point about the volunteers. Obviously, it's very grateful to all the volunteers who are chipping in and giving their time. It says in the report about the number of people on Duke of Edinburgh Welsh Back volunteers who are obviously on the younger side of the volunteer sort of spectrum. So I guess what more can be done to encourage younger people to do it? Because I guess once they're in volunteering, it's something they'll keep for life.
Yeah, volunteering is addictive in a really good way. And what we find is when people engage with it across all of our services, shout out to Youth Service, for example, and everything that they do with the volunteers, they do get hooked. What we found really successful is some of the engagement that we've done with our high schools. So some of the bits on there specifically around coding, robotics, programming, that's led by high school students. And these are nationally award-winning high school students who have been supported by our libraries. And that's created a community around bot building. Do you remember that show back in the day, BattleBots? You know, they do that in Bristol. They don't do that over here, but they're starting to look at bringing it over here for that specific reason. So more people get involved. That's something that we need to continue to grow. And I think how we can leverage as a council what we're doing to support volunteering. So changes to our people strategy, for example, that's going to allow me to go and have a volunteer day for the first time, I think is really positive. And how we can support volunteers. So if we're able to receive something from our volunteers, what can we do in terms of learning for them, for example? So that's an avenue that I would like to explore, building on what we do with, you know, ACL and that kind of thing.
Great. Thanks, Trevor. I can't see any other hands up, so thank you for the presentation and for answering questions. So in that case, then I'll move that we note the library's annual report and then refer on the comments made here to Cabinet. If I could have a seconder for that. Thanks, Ewan. I think we'll wait for Councillor Hennessy to return. Yeah. Okay. Item 5, Annual Delivery Plan Monitoring Reports, Q4 Performance 23-24. It's over to Liz.
Noswaith Arbawb, good evening, everybody. Well, I'm sorry to have to start my bit by saying I neither have children, nor do I have thought bubbles. I hadn't heard that term before, but I come empty-handed of thought bubbles. So, I hope this isn't a sign of how things are going to pan out. This is my first delivery, so I'm very sorry, Chair, that I start just this time. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to take you through the report for performance of Q4 for the year ending March 2024, and how this works towards achieving our annual delivery plan, which of course is aligned to our corporate wellbeing objectives. There are a number of appendices in the report. They are meant to give you an overview and a heads up really of what things look like at year end, but also it serves as a purpose to give you a heads up and a line of sight of what we need to continue to work on, because we've got improvement priorities, as well as a few trends seem to be establishing that we will need to address. But of course the purpose of it is that you have an early line of sight before you will receive the detailed annual self-assessment, which will be with you in December. And of course that will be reported to Cabinet and full Council. So if I stay at a high level, first of all, we can safely say that 3 of our corporate plan wellbeing objectives are green, and that's to do with objective 2, 3 and 4. We have one which we have judged as amber, and that's wellbeing objective 1. So overall it does reflect progress made to date in meeting our annual delivery plan and our commitments for 23-24. Again, staying at a high level, we've got 91% of our planned activities, as outlined in our ADP, have been attributed green, with just 9% of planned activities attributed a red status. With regard to how we perform at a learning and culture scrutiny level, we can say that 97% of our actions were attributed green, with just under 3% attributed a red status. And you'll see in the appendices, and I will take you through one of them shortly, but there are 3 appendices. Appendix A will give you an overview of our performance and how that really pertains to the remit of Learning and Culture Scrutiny Committee. Then you have Appendix B, which pulls together the actions that have either slipped or there might have been a change in the landscape or whatever, but for ease of use and for you to be able to have a quick at a glance view of what we deem to be red, and then also an idea of what we're trying to do to address the issues. And then finally, you have a more comprehensive Appendix C where you have details and contextual information about our actions. Now, what we're asking, or the recommendations as part of this report, is that members consider the Q4 performance results and the progress towards achieving the annual delivery plan commitments, and that you consider the remedial actions to be taken to address areas of underperformance. Now, the reasons for recommendations is twofold. Firstly, it's to evidence progress so that we can clearly demonstrate that we are making progress towards achieving our commitments. But then secondly, to assess the quality of our performance and to make sure that the Council is effectively able to provide a judgment on whether we decide that progress is good, bad or indifferent. So if I take you through Appendix A, because that's what pertains to the learning and culture remit. Now, before I start, I suppose the danger is of something like this is that it does a disservice to all of the embarrassment of riches that is captured here, because of course they all jostle for position and they might only have one bullet point to their name. You've just heard Trevor take you through a very, very comprehensive report, and yet it only gets one bullet point here. So I suppose it's a word of caution, really. That's all this is meant to be, is a summary, but it does cover an embarrassment of riches, considering the remit of the directorate, but also it clearly shows the steer and the challenge and the support that the scrutiny committee does give to enable us to be able to come with an embarrassment of riches for you. So if I'll start off, I'll take you through objective 1, which is work with and for our communities. There's been a lot of work in making sure that we have developed participation opportunities for young people. And that's going from strength to strength. And obviously we will continue to do that. An example of course, is attendance here this evening, which is part and parcel of making sure that we take on board lived experiences and that we can have a strong representation from our young people in all the work of the council. So we've been working hard to deliver the reforms of the Additional Learning Needs Act. And we are doing well in establishing processes and systems for creating individual development plans. These are new statutory documents required by the ALN Act. And of course, there are timescales associated with them. So again, making sure that we do stick to our timescales. There's really exciting developments around schools of sanctuary status, and we have 14 schools signed up for that, and another 7 on the stocks as well. We've worked hard to, with our schools, to enhance digital assets, and again, looking at developing SLAs with schools, with 31 in place at the moment, again looking at technical ICT support. There's been a comprehensive digital professional learning programme aligned with the digital professional learning journey to support schools, with 44 schools having completed that. We've also looked at the childcare market, offering guidance, advice and training to childminders and childcare settings. We've completed a community mapping exercise with our ethnic minority communities, and again to determine youth provision and support the needs of the global majority of for young people, that is. And we've strengthened the Welsh language capacity through our WESP. We're looking at objective 2, which is to support learning, employment and sustainable economic growth. As you know, because in our last scrutiny meeting, we did present on the Esting findings, and the Vale did exceptionally well there for our youth service as well as for our education services. We have made very effective inroads with the Youth Job Club and the 50+ job clubs, which continue to be successful. And there will be a further focus on key areas, particularly engagement for the 25+ remains very positive for us. We've looked at partnering with our Central South Consortium colleagues on Future First programme to develop schools linked with local businesses. And work is also progressing well with the Vale Business Pledge scheme. And again, to look at continuing opportunities for work experience for our learners. A couple of scrutinies ago, I was here explaining to you that over 90% of our schools were actively engaged in the whole school approach. I think we are now up to something like 96% of schools engaged, and that compares very, very favourably with the rest of Wales, because the rest of Wales is approximately about 40%. We are proactively supporting schools to minimise exclusions and to increase attendance. And we've just had some positive news through, because that is still, despite early gains, it is still proving to be an area of need for us. Delivery of Band B projects as part of the Sustainable Communities for Learning scheme has remained on track. There's strong progress in implementing the Welsh Government's employability strategy. And we have effectively collaborated to ensure that no Year 11 learners in our local authority care, leave education or training or work-based learning without an approved qualification. We take our role as the corporate parent very seriously. And similarly, we've also made sure that youngsters from the global majority, or where English is an additional language, have left compulsory education with recognised qualifications. Our adult community learning Get Back on Track programme has recorded a success rate of 95% on accredited courses. And again, we are again continuing to exceed targets for engagement there. Objective 3, supporting people at home and in their communities. We've worked in partnership to promote and support childcare and early years setting to achieve Gold Standard Healthy Snack Award accreditation, and that's as part of the Move More, Eat Well agenda. We've promoted our assets as community learning spaces, offering a wide range of opportunities. We continue to deliver effective interventions for young people at risk of homelessness. The Period Dignity Project has gone from strength to strength and continues to do so. And you've just heard a presentation by Trevor about the amazing work done with all of our libraries and partners to diversify our offers there. We've successfully delivered training on violence against women, domestic abuse and sexual violence, with really strong engagement from schools. And another excellent success story is the rolling out of the free school meals programme for all of our primary aged pupils. We continue to embed practices to safeguard and promote well-being of our learners, and school compliance rate remains at 100% for our level 2 safeguarding training. And on to the fourth objective: respect, enhance and enjoy our environment. So we've updated current employer requirements for future developments to ensure progression within our designs that are meeting the net zero carbon targets. And as part of the Project Zero Reserve scheme, the School Investment Operational Board have shortlisted and supported schools with green spaces, for example, wildflowers, ponds, planters, as part of the carbon reducing agenda. And then we have the Sustainable Communities for Learning team that have awarded Cadoxton Primary, Ysgolyderi, Barry Island Primary, Jenna Park, Albert Primary and High Street Primary mini green and blue spaces from the Vale Nature Partnership. Now, that's just a canter through, and I cannot do it justice by just simply, just alluding to those points. But I suppose it's meant to just give you an overview of the phenomenal amount of work that's undertaken by the Directorate. Now, clearly, there are areas that continue to need improvement, and those have also been identified. We will continue to need to collaborate with our schools, the School Budget Forum and governing bodies to support the management of school budgets. We will also need to progress opportunities to develop business intelligence and analytics to make sure that we have appropriate interventions in place. Around Objective 2, again, these will be our improvement priorities. Despite some delays in year, it is anticipated that remaining the Sustainable Communities for Learning projects will be delivered by the end of 2026, in line with the end of Band B programme, but it is recognising that there were in-year delays. Attendance continues to be an issue for us. Despite early gains, and we continue to maintain those, it is nevertheless a continued issue for us. We will continue to support schools around the pastoral support plan, again making sure that our children are in schools for most of their time. And we will continue to need to work on improving the number of our Year 11 learners who leave compulsory education, training or work without an approved external qualification. Our performance this year equated to 2 individual learners not achieving what we'd hoped. And this was just shy of our target, which was 0%. So we will obviously continue to aim for that. At the moment, our secondary exclusions continue to be a concern for us, and we will provide more targeted support and challenge to ensure that we are that we confidently can support schools to bring those down. Objective 3 then, support people at home and in their communities. There will be a continued push to promoting homelessness support and provision within secondary schools so that we can identify early and provide effective interventions. And we will progress work on identifying income opportunities for the art services and the Arts Central Gallery to ensure its sustainability. And then lastly, on Objective 4, to respect, enhance, enjoy our environment, we will continue to develop the hybrid model of working to meet evolving business needs. Now, I don't mean to insult you by reading the rest of it, because of course I'm sure you have already read that, but it was just merely to give you an overview and an early heads up about what we have achieved and what our known improvement areas are on an ongoing basis. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Liz. So I'll hand over to councillors if there are any thoughts or questions. Naomi.
Just a few short questions, Liz, if that's okay, on a few points. Looking at Objective 3, just so I can understand myself, the period of dignity within schools. Does that mean that basically products are available for anyone that needs them?
Yes.
And are they within bathrooms, or how are they accessed?
It's more than just within bathrooms. There's a very comprehensive approach to making sure that these are accessible in our schools. And we've had a very, very high take-up route. I'm just about certain that 100%. Well, no, actually, I am certain that 100% of our secondary schools are working exceptionally well with our team on making sure that such goods are available to them. If you want more details, there is a comprehensive report on that. We report regularly to Welsh Government, and we are seen as good practice across Wales.
Sorry, one other question. Thanks for that. Looking at Objective 4 and Sustainable Communities for Learning. So I've done some work with Local Nature Partnership as part of my role as Biodiversity Champion. And I know, for example, that just looking at LNP, they do have grants available. And I was just wondering, I'm looking at some of the schools that have got grants from them and support. Is there any way, not just with Local Nature Partnership, but is there any way that schools can be given support in applying for grants that might be available? Do you have any staff that are able to help? Because I know that generally it's about time. So you might have people that are able to do those things in school, but it's having the time within the school day to be able to do the applications.
Yeah, it's knowing where to find it and then help filling it in, which is the hard part. Shorter answer is yes. We've got 2 members of staff, one in our 21st Century Schools team, or sorry, Sustainable Communities for Learning team now, who is like an ecology officer. They could come and talk to you about weird and wonderful things like worms and lots of different schemes and stuff. And they've got a lot of links with local communities, and they will help schools put together bids. We've done that internally with things like Project Zero, but we've also done that externally with a number of schools. And we also have a grants officer in our finance team who oversees the mechanisms and the infrastructure behind the scenes when grants come in and how they go and are reported. So it takes some of that onus off of schools.
Thank you. Ewan.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask a few questions, sadly, not to detract from all the brilliant work that's being done by the department and by our schools, but of some of the exceptions to that. So firstly, on the NEET levels, you briefly talked about earlier, this is the highest NEET levels we've seen in year 3 for a very long time. And recently we've had a change to our getting people from NEET into work or into education and training programme, which is now Strive. Has there been any analysis so far by the department about why the NEET levels have increased? Because, you know, the actions within this report are extremely positive about the positive work that's being done by Strive to actively get hundreds of young people into work, but what is causing that slippage? What is causing that? Do we know?
I don't have the answer for you at the moment, but obviously that is something that's being looked at, but I can take that back and bring that information to you, the analysis as such, yeah.
That would be fantastic. Secondly, I just wanted to make the point quickly on Welsh medium education, which has not hit our target, and the focus that I'm sure the education department is putting into increasing Welsh medium education. And I know about the new resource space for that, and also for the new resource space of ALN, as you touched on the challenges in ALN that I've talked about before with the risk register as well. So that's been really positive to see. But I wanted to touch on Ysgol y Derry and the special school funding model, which wasn't completed in the year. Have we got any understanding of what we're going to do next year yet? In order to make up for that slippage, in order to make a more sustainable long-term funding model for Ysgol y Derry and other special schools, which may be down the pipeline.
We do have indeed plans to pick up on that because, as you rightly said, that had slipped for last year for a number of reasons. But yes, there are plans afoot to relook at the funding formula for Ysgol y Derry. Can I ask you, what did you mean from was there a point about the Welsh medium education there as well? Sorry, did I miss something? Sorry.
No, just to say that, just to say the brilliant work of your department, just to commend that with the new Welsh medium school being considered down the pipeline. That's been good to see that challenge is already being taken on. So that's very positive.
But it's also thanking Scrutiny as well, obviously, for supporting Welsh medium education and allowing us to ensure the opening of a much needed resource base. Thank you.
Just to come in really quickly, so one of the things we've changed is the introduction of the immersion centre we have for Welsh medium education. And if you speak to some of the families in our Welsh medium schools about the support that they've had, I think that's really helping in terms of getting folks transition into it. And we're trying to be innovative. So what we're doing with part of our YOLO rebuild program, one is including a immersion center for older kids, but also from an ACL perspective, so adult and community learning. So again, this whole sort of family approach, because some of the barriers we have to entry into Welsh medium education is that insecurity with parents about how do I support my kids. So those opportunities are being reflected in the same way that we put space for resource spaces, because we know that that's going to be required in our new build. So that's an exciting thing, which we can look forward to in the coming years.
Sorry, very quickly, while we're on the topic of Welsh education, do Do we know when the iDev module is going to be available to council staff on Welsh Learning? If you don't know this, I'll ask it to Tracy Dixon at a future meeting from HR. But yeah, do we know when that will be available?
I'm totally going to defer to Tracy on that one, sorry. Cheers.
I'd just like to quickly touch on the point about the period dignity points. I've heard quite a few comments from some of my friends that suggest the quality of them can be a bit lacking, enough so that they choose not to use them for that reason. So I'm wondering if there's anything being done to ensure the quality of them, or maybe whether it's worth asking some of the students in the schools whether the products are quality enough to be using, or if there's any other issues with them.
To my knowledge, this is the first I've heard that maybe the quality isn't what it needs to be. However, it might be that it is already known. But either way, obviously, I can take that back to query quality of products. Thank you.
Thanks. I can't see anything else, but I've just got a quick question. It's regarding SLA 009. It talks about regular monthly monitoring reports are being produced for most service areas. I was just wondering if there's a number or a percentage for what most means. That's okay. Thanks, Ewan. Sorry to put you on the spot with for a precise number.
The safest option for me is to come back at you and find out for you so that I've got something concrete to report back. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, I can't see any other hands up, so thanks for that very much, Liz. So I move that we note the report, having considered the key 4 performance results and remedial actions, and then refer comments made by committee to Cabinet. If I could have a seconder for that. Councillor Hennessy, thank you very much. Thanks, Liz. Trevor, Caris, everyone. That's the meeting done, and see you again after the summer. Sorry, Naomi.
I was just wondering, Chair, I know we all had a great visit to Pencoitry last month. I know that Ysgol y Deri have a new programme coming out. So this is a formal request to find out if, as a scrutiny, we can go and visit Ysgol y Deri at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be great.
We'll get on to that.
While the kids are there, it would be super.
Yeah,
so not in the summer holidays.
Great. Thanks, Naomi.
Thanks to Liz for her first meeting.
Absolutely. Thanks for that. Okay. Thanks, everyone, and see you in September. Thank you.